If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
And here we are. It is 6:30-ish p.m. And I did a session earlier today. And now I am going to be getting a little more work done. So let's close up the wonderful Animation Truman Show jingle. And if you're new here, be sure to like and subscribe, because that's how we get popular. That's how That's how people find us on YouTube. So anyway, so I think I'll recap where we are at and where we are headed, and then a couple other comments about a video I was watching here on YouTube. Earlier today, we fixed up this shot using Krita, and that was nothing but fun. In fact, since the time I live streamed, I also fixed up his hair, because his hair was too dark. If we jump to this shot up here, you can see how dark that is in this later shot. So that's a little problematic. But I fixed it, and can't guarantee there won't maybe even be some fixes later again. But it's kind of an interesting exercise in that, let's actually switch to the other screen and take it off of full screen preview. Okay, so a little while ago we did this shot, and this was just yesterday, day before, it was a couple days ago. And then, as I say, this afternoon we did this shot. Well, the next shot is 97, okay? And then 97 was basically done in Krita as sort of a remake of this shot. Okay, so in other words, the shot was done here in Krita some time ago, and then the assets got reused for another shot. Well, actually, the original would have been 95, and then 97 came later. But most of the assets were reused. So what I'm thinking is that in terms of being on character and whatnot, the work I'm doing here in Tahoma is really probably a little more spot on. I mean, this looks really bad because, I mean, it doesn't look really bad, but I mean, it doesn't look quite right because he's a little off character, and that was addressed here. Just minor things like his eyes and the shape of his chin. But let's imagine that we're in that position. Okay, so if you're, hey Maria, so let's say you're a professional and your director comes to you and says, well, you know, Dave, you've done an okay job here, but it's not quite where it needs to be. Okay, well, in my case, since I'm a one-man studio, I'm the director and the animator, so I have to say to myself, Dave, this shot needs a little work. And, you know, I listen to myself. And so a lot of these shots do get revisited later. It's one of the reasons why I favor, as much as possible, a pretty procedural workflow. Meaning I can change things later, re-render, and make fixes and corrections. So before I get into it, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do the opposite of what I did before. I'm not going to take this shot from Krita and build it out into 97 or fix up 97 using some of the same fixes in 95. It would actually make way more sense to take 090. It would make way more sense to use 90, which was done in Tahoma. So that's not this shot. This is the shot we're going to work on tonight. But so we're going to basically overwrite 97. So we're going to use 97 in Krita as a guide for timing, and bring it into Tahoma, basically redo it. We're going to recreate it here in Tahoma. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do tonight. Okay, so I was watching this video here on YouTube of Aaron Blaise doing some a pencil test animation of a flying eagle or something like that. And the thing I noticed, I'll turn off the audio so I don't get slammed, but if you look closely, I find it interesting that he's animating with, I'm not sure what they call them, but I've got a couple of them. I think they're called a Conti crayon. So it's really it's not a pencil. It's actually sort of a waxy crayon type thing. And I always wondered when I saw older videos of, say, Glenn Keane doing animation, if that was what he was using. I never really looked close enough to see, but right there you can tell it's definitely a Conti crayon. So I find it interesting that I've mentioned here that if you want to get that sort of really broad effect in a pencil test animation, the my paintbrushes, charcoal brush is a really good type of brush to use for that. So just a thought. Reason being that when you, if I hit the B key and create a new level, the reason being that with the charcoal, it kind of has a feeling similar to that Conti crayon kind of thing, where it's real thick and loose. And when you're roughing in an animation, that's kind of what you want. Now this brush also has the advantage of, if you press hard, the line actually gets thinner. But if you look closely though, it's not clean. It's kind of a broken line, which gives it that crayon-y type of look. So it's really not going to be a good choice for like doing ink work or whatever. I don't know. I guess I drew like a, I don't know, what is this, a walnut or something? But for sketching and just kind of blocking in the feeling of animation, it's really a good brush to use. So just kind of throw that out there. I you know, as far as, you know, that video of Aaron Blaise, that was only like from 2 years ago or something, 2018 maybe. And I still, this has kind of come up a couple times in the last couple days, I still find it baffling animating on paper. I just don't quite get that. But there's a lot of guys out there that still like to animate on paper. So anyway, a couple things to note here. First of all, what I did was I essentially took this entire section by hitting shift and grabbing all of these cells, and I just hit Control X and I cut them and moved everything down. So this pose, if you will, this cell, which is Mel, was in fact at the end of the prior shot that this shot is based on. So you can grab an entire rectangle of cells. I left this one alone because this is just a looping animation of the bowls that he's carrying. So I didn't touch that. And so I moved this to the top. And then one other thing to note is, if you have a column like this where you see that this was modulated by the plastic tool, here, let me see, let me hit the X key. Actually, to be accurate, it looks to me like let me see this. It looks to me like the change I made with the plastic tool in transitioning to this new scene, it looks like I lost it. Okay. So that's something we need to fix immediately, so let me just deal with that. Okay, what I was going to say before I was so rudely interrupted by myself is that you can add the plastic tool to different drawings. Like, you can see how the mesh wraps around the character, and here, obviously, the mesh is a completely different shape because his head is in a different position. But you can actually, on a given column that you're animating with the plastic tool, you can add as many different meshes and skeletons as you want. If you move this over here like that, okay, that still wants to use the prior, or the skeleton from up here. So anyway, thinking out loud here, but I'm going to go ahead and just build up a quick and dirty skeleton. I'm going to turn the bowls back off so they're not distracting me. And this is a bit unfortunate, but I have to reproduce what I did earlier today. And in fact, we'll kind of correct it. When I did it earlier, I had a couple bones coming out like this and then coming back in on his cheek because I was trying to correct the characterization in his cheek. So this time I'll do it the way I probably should have done it in the first place, which is to have it come off of his nose region. And what that does is that'll give me the ability to fix this slightly incorrect shape in his cheek, but at the same time, if I were to bend his neck, the cheek would come along with it. Okay, so what am I talking about? Well, step one, I've got keep distance turned off so that I can then just squeeze this in a little bit. Okay, now that's interesting. Okay, that might explain a lot, guys. I'm giving myself a little surprise here. So it looks to me like, okay, so this should be affecting this, but it's not. So there's a couple ways we can go here. It's really not a big deal either way. If we take this column, just to be safe, in other words, the safe course of action right now would be to take this whole sequence and just move it into a separate level entirely. But what I was kind of wondering here is I wonder if in the schematic we actually have the we've got the plastic tool there. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So the problem is that when you add the plastic tool, the column gets mapped through the plastic tool, so the plastic tool then deforms the column, the contents of the column, and then that's what animates in your scene. Therefore, if you have a single column with two instances of the plastic tool, then the system doesn't actually know which instance of the plastic tool to pipe the level through. So it makes more sense to break the level up into two pieces so that that's clear. And at this point, we want this column here to be the one that is mapping through the plastic tool there. So it can become a little cumbersome because you wind up with, a lot of columns going on. So anyway, that's that. We've, I believe, fixed it. Let's go to the X key, which is the plastic tool, and see if we can make this minor correction. And yeah, that looks like Mel. That looks like Mel. Okay, so now the thing I was going to say is I also, if I turn keep distance back on so that all these bones rotate as opposed to stretching, now it can't stretch. If I pull this way, it will not stretch. But now I can also turn his head a little bit. And if I wanted to. So, and I don't. Another thing that you want to know is that if his shadow, which in this case his shadow is on a different level, if you want the shadow to carry along with the body, which of course you would, then it's important to go into the schematic and make sure that the shadow column, in this case this one right here, is also piped through the plastic tool. Otherwise, when you deform the body, the shadow won't follow along, right? Okay, so those are kind of some basics on the plastic tool. So no, this is not Krita, Femboy Skater. Nope. What we're going to actually do, it's kind of an interesting exercise. The live stream I did earlier today was in Krita. This is Krita. So this is an old shot done in Krita. And rather than try to fix the characterization issues that I want to fix, I'm going to just use this as a timing guide and recreate the animation here in Tahoma. And that kind of gets us, well, it improves the shot and also sort of sets us up to deal with actually the next shot coming up in the show here, which is, let's see here, we've got a blank frame there, it looks like. So those 3 shots right there are definitely going to have to be redone too. So there's quite a bit of redoing. So 99B is another one that was originally done in Krita that I'm probably going to just port it over to Homa. So if you're wanting to see exciting pencil test animation, probably tonight this is the wrong night to be here, because this is going to be pretty pedestrian grunt work, but it's important grunt work. It's and it'll highlight issues that actually come up all the time. So one that came up right away is that in this drawing, if we go here to the drawing, I guess we should go to this one. This drawing, he's actually a little off character. Well, this happens all the time. So there's 2 ways you could fix that. You could erase this and just kind of fix the characterization, or you could do what I did here, where I used the plastic tool to just deform it a little bit. Both ways work. It really depends on the situation. If you had a scenario where, and by the way, this looks so stupid because it's just a 1-frame tween to get him from here to here. Okay, so anyway. All right, so now what we have to look at is our timing. So let's not get too fancy schmancy. In this case, we don't need the bowls to be turned on. We don't need the background to be turned on. All we actually care about is the characterization of Mel. So what does he do? And there's another complication, by the way. This Krita shot was done at 24 frames per second. So in my head, I have to port that to 8 frames per second. So if something takes 24 frames here, it's only taking 8 frames into Homa. Okay? So which you can already see that I did. Here, Mel goes, he gets like startled a little bit or whatever. And so that's what happened here. After I gave him like 2/3 of a second and then had him sort of shrug his shoulders like he got startled a little bit because basically Luka says something to him. So in the show, what actually happens is he notices Tianara, which, you know, who wouldn't? She's beautiful. So then we have this shot, and then Luka says something to him, and that gets his attention, and boom, this is the shot we're working on right now. Okay? So there we go. Back to Tahoma. So how do we do that? How do we reproduce this animation? Well, number one, we're not going to try to be frame accurate. I don't care about everything happening on the exact frames that they happened here. What I care about is the basic feel of it being about the same. And the only reason that's important really is because when it's cut into the show, I don't want to necessarily have to change a bunch of editing to sort of make everything fit. So, and the pace of the edit feels pretty good anyway, so hope that makes sense. So we've got this kind of thing, and then he whips his head over this way at around frame 35. So that's about a second and a half. So in Tahoma, that would be around frame 12, and indeed that's right where we landed. He goes like that. Okay? So now what we have is we've got eye blinks, and let me see what else we have. Okay, and then we've got changes in his face because this is his mouth over here. I should probably label that M-O-U-T-H. So I don't think in this shot he's going to be smiling at all. So there's going to be a lot of things like the shape of his face and whatnot that are going to probably we'll probably wind up stretching a lot of these down, and then just changing the lip sync. I'm not sure I'm loving the mouth shape. It's a little sloppy. That's a little sloppy, Dave. Is this a... Okay. This is a smart raster level, so... There we go. That shape, again, not totally loving it. I'm going to just try to just straighten it out a little bit. Gee, I guess I was in a hurry when I did that one. Okay. That is somewhat better-ish. So if you don't know the normal, if you're getting into lip sync where somebody's talking a lot, the basic pattern is closed mouth, open mouth, almost closed mouth, which I don't really have one of those here. But so you have open, more open, and then that repeats. So it's a 5-frame cycle. Open, more open, more open, and then almost closed. And those 5 frames together you can repeat in as many times as you need to for whatever the voiceover is. So I'm not doing, there's no phonemes. Occasionally I do let phonemes sneak in for like ooh sounds, like an ooh or an o. So I might have a round shaped mouth. But, okay, so one thing to note here is, let's see here. Okay, it looks like this mouth shape here is baked into this drawing. Okay? Yes. Okay, and the reason I'm noting that is that when we get here, his mouth is actually a little bit in the wrong place. And the reason it's in the wrong place probably, or might be, because his mouth actually should be piped through the plastic tool for that level. Okay? So let's go like that. Yeah, see, you saw it move just a little bit right there. Okay, so that should position it better. Yeah, there you go. That's definitely an improvement. Okay, cool. So I don't remember what his line of dialogue is. Okay, so what he does is he looks at Luka, but then he glances back at Tianara, right? Okay, look at the way his eyes jump around. Yeah, that's pretty bad. So we're going to fix that. Okay, so given that, the look back happens at 42. So you're almost at 2 seconds. So that really would be right here. 16. So I'm just going to go ahead and stretch this down because he doesn't have any dialogue at this point. So let's just go. Let's go ahead and give him the eye blink. And I'll tell you, actually, maybe we want to do, we might want to do the eye blink and then we'll just feel it. We'll just feel the timing here. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the eye blink again. So let's just hit the W key. So that inserts the next drawing in the stack. The Q key would insert the previous drawing in the stack. And now instead of going to this drawing, I'm going to give him about a half a second of looking back. So let me double check the timing here, because he looks back and he really did need to have a blink there. And so that's 54. So we're around 2.5 seconds. I think we'll just play it loose and just feel it. So I would say what I want to do here is hit the D key and make a duplicate. Okay. And now, forgive me, I'm having to look at this and just make sure I didn't make a mistake. So it looks like it updated the numbers for me. Okay, so what that means is this is drawing number 2. This wants to be drawing number 2. Now, if I drag this down, it's gonna ripple everything. In this case, that's actually okay. It's probably fine to do that. So, but what you could do is, if you have a bunch of blank frames like that, you just I'm gonna delete those. You'd go fill in empty cells. Boop. There you go. Okay, so. Whoa, wait a second. Okay, let me see what we have here. Okay. We've got to stop everything. Okay, this is actually, you know what, you guys? This is critically important. We're going to have a problem here if I don't, like, do a bunch of undo. And I'll explain why in a minute. Okay, let me tell you, so this is really, really important. If there's nothing else you guys get from me today, this is the important thing, okay? So get ready. Fanboy Skater, you're new. By the way, welcome to the live stream. Be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed. How many years of experience? I would say I started, I mean, I've always been a cartoonist, but I basically started animating about 3 years ago. So, that's about it. It's also hard to think when you have to narrate, so mad respect. Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier today that I do tend to make more mistakes when I'm blabbing, but this is the thing I want to tell you guys. This is really, really, really important, so turn your ears on and listen to me on this. I just created a problem that could have been a disaster. Here's why. Shot number 2, drawing number 2, is the closed eyes for the blink, okay? You go, okay, that's fine. But remember, this level, this strip right here, is a TLV file on my hard disk. And this TLV file was created for a different shot. So I'm reusing the same assets in this shot. Well, that creates a real danger. You got to be careful. If you do what I just did, where you select this drawing and hit the D key to duplicate it, what Tahoma does is it puts the next drawing here and pushes everything down one frame. What that means is that all these drawings over here that were supposed to be eye blinks got switched to this drawing. Not only that, but also if I would have saved my work, the TLV file would have gotten saved, and you can be sure that what would have happened is that my prior scene that used this same strip would have been destroyed. When I reloaded it, all of the images would have been wrong. Here's how you fix that. Here's how you fix that. Let me see. Can you hit insert here? No. So I'm going to hit insert. Okay, that does not work. Okay. So what you just saw is if you hit insert to just insert a drawing, it again puts it above this drawing. Well, the D key, the duplicate key, puts a drawing after that's a copy, and the insert puts one above. If I remember correctly, there's actually a way to insert one after, but let me see. But it doesn't matter. Here's my point. What you want to do is this. You want to go to the last frame in the strip and hit D, and then immediately go into it and erase everything. So I'm going to hit the S key, select all, and hit delete. Okay, so now I've effectively, and the thumbnail didn't update, which is a little annoying. Okay, but what I wanted to do was create what I can be sure is a blank drawing at the end of the sequence. That way I know that none of the other shots that use this same image sequence will be affected by any of the additional drawings here. As long as you're adding new drawings to a smart raster level that's being used by multiple shots, make sure you only add new shots to the end of the strip. Now in this case, probably the smart way to proceed would be to hit the D key 2 or 3 times and just add a bunch of blank frames. Okay. So now I've just got a few extra just in case I need them later. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this drawing, hit the S key, select all. No, not select all. S key. Why is it in polyline mode? Hello. And I'm going to select this drawing that I wanted to duplicate earlier. I'm just going to select the drawing, hit Control C, and then come back to this blank drawing and hit Control V. That's how I make the copy. Now I know I have a safe copy, and what I can do is change his eyes. Now there's another caveat with this shot that's kind of a added complication, which is that technically I really didn't even need to do what I'm doing right now because we do have this drawing right here. Well, it looks like the drawing I need I already had, so that's a little embarrassing. But we have this one, and we also have this one. We've got both of these. So technically I really didn't even need to do that. I think I'm going to get rid of this one, just keep things simple. So that's another bit of advice, I suppose, is it's not a bad idea to just kind of go through your drawings and make sure that whatever you're about to draw you don't already have, right? So now I'm going to say that in the Krita version of the shot, he was kind of looking like this. I'm going to say that I don't know if I want this one or this one. I think I might want a sequence of both of them, actually. I'm going to say it's going to make Mel look a little bit sly if we actually put both of these in here. So let's look at the flow so far. That I don't like at all. Yeah, definitely this does not work. He's curious about the girl over there, right? So this needs to last a little longer. Let it breathe, let it breathe. Okay, and now what we're going to do is add number 2 back in. So I'm going to just hit Control C, Control V, and then we've got to go back to this one. Control C, Control V. Because he then has a line of dialogue that he says to Luka. Okay, so that should look about right. Yeah, there you go. So that worked. That worked pretty well. Okay. Well, the half closed, I would say I would not agree with you that it's not Mel, but that's a look that comes up for a very specific reason, and that was what happened when he very first saw Tianara. I believe that was here. The first time he ever sees her, so he's dealing with Luka, and then all of a sudden it's like, huh? What? Whoa. Right? So, it is Mel. That look does come up many times in the show, but it's not super frequent. Let's put it that way. So, but I appreciate your thought on that, because, I mean, it's kind of gratifying to think that anyone out there in the world would actually have an opinion about, the characters in my show. And so anyway, this is actually coming together pretty quickly. Again, hitting the L key to, he's interested. He's trying to engage with Luka while he really wants to check out the girl, right? So I think I've done a pretty good job of selling that concept here. Okay, so now the question becomes, well, what's his line of dialogue? I believe he said, let me just, gotcha. I see what's supposed to happen. So he says, yeah, this is actually almost correct as far as lip sync goes. Okay, I wonder if let me see if having this other shape in there is going to be harmful. Okay, so this probably wants to be 4. Okay, so I'm just going to hit the W key. And then he says, sure. Okay, so now this is going to be interesting timing. I'm just going to stretch his body shape, head, whatever. I'm just going to stretch it out, because this is all the acting is taking place here in the, really in the lip sync, in the way he says it. So you guys will see what I'm talking about here in a bit. So that's going to be, sure. Okay, and then this is going to be fun. I'm thinking, this is actually going to be quite cool. Alright, so this is going to be 4 again. And then he's going to switch. He's going to actually turn his head back. Okay, so this probably doesn't make sense yet, but it will. This is going to make sense shortly. And once this comes together, you guys will see in the acting how this conveyed. It really is going to tell you what he's thinking, which is pretty cool. So clearly he's more interested in Tianara, but he's trying to be polite, basically. Sure. And what I'm going to do now, so he says, shh. Okay, so I think an eye blink here too. He goes, blink right there. So let's go ahead and find, yep, right there it is. Okay, cool. Sure, sure. Okay, now here, what I want to do is put I want to have him look back again. Okay, so blink. And actually, here's where the Doonesbury eyes actually kind of make sense. This is going to be fun. Okay. So now, and This needs to be another blink. And then we don't want that smile in there. Okay? And then he smiles. And then the smile disappears. I hope that makes sense. And then what probably should happen, I'll just stretch this down, but really probably what should happen is, if we follow the Krita example, he actually, I believe, turns his head back. So he basically gives Luka a polite smile and then turns back. Okay, so let's just keep working this. We'll get there. Okay, so I'll adjust the timing later. So I'm just going to not worry about the bowls at the moment. But what we're going to do here is we're going to add the blink. And then we're going to add the wipe. Yep, we're going to add that. And then we'll be switching back to this bit here. So I'm going to hit Control C. Actually, I'm going to grab this whole sequence. Control C. Control V. Okay, that pretty much should be the whole shot, although the timing's probably going to have to be massaged a bit. And yep, we don't need the mouth in there because it's baked into that one drawing. Okay? So if you're totally confused, let's hit the play button and hopefully you won't be anymore. Let's turn the bowls on that he's carrying. Sure. Yeah, see, then that happens way too late, right? Way too late. But that's okay. The basic acting is working. So, is this the same show with the car? No, you know what? Thanks for asking that, Killsweep. No. I tell you, I keep telling Valerie I'm going to bring that back. What I really need to do, now that I've really kind of found my groove with the scoring, doing the music on this show, on the sequence that I just released, if you didn't check it out, check it out. It's I just posted the first webisode of this show, which is 4 minutes long. Well, it's 5 minutes because you have a 1 minute introduction, and then future episodes will have an abbreviated introduction. But it's the first 4 minutes of the show. I got done scoring it and adding the voices and all that, and released it. Well, but it's really cool that you would ask about the Akari thing, because I want to bring that back, and I'm actually thinking of putting some music on it and releasing it as well. I'm actually thinking about just kind of doing that. That show is an interesting case because it's subtitled and all the voices were in Japanese. And when I was doing it, I actually was lifting dialogue lines from a show called Gintama, because in that show they have very little music, so you could just kind of rip the dialogue. So you'd have this dialogue in the show where whatever they're saying in Japanese has absolutely nothing to do with what they're actually supposed to be saying in the show. But it was, I would use that as placeholders. So, but that was a fun show to do, and I definitely would like to. And by the way, it's a really cool story too. I mean, it's pretty epic. Okay, so let me just zip through this one more time and kind of double check the timing. Okay, so one thing that's bugging me is his mouth should be semi-transparent. Why is that not reading? It's very strange. It's something about the plastic tool that causes... Okay, that's just an effect problem. I'll fix that here shortly. But why... Let's turn this off so we can see his mouth. Yeah, okay. So that's correct. So if you look at the transparency level here, like if I turn it down all the way, you can see his mouth disappears. So for some reason, this is just a Tahoma thing. Tahoma / OpenTunes is, well, it's really a Tahoma thing because OpenTunes doesn't allow you to use level opacity in your renders. But for some reason, when you're not in the preview mode, it still looks perfectly black, which is kind of strange. And that usually doesn't happen. So I think it's got something to do with the plastic tool. Okay, so let's deal with this. We don't want to see it in the preview, but we do want to see it in the render. And what's wrong here is that Mel's body, column 4, so let's go to the effects. So if you guys are interested in compositing, this is what we're going to deal with now. Okay? So what we're trying to do is create a shadow situation for column 4, which is his body, head, whatever. Now we've got an interesting complication. And the complication is that this shadow is only going to affect this column, but it's not going to affect this column. So that means probably the simplest fix really would be to insert a column and just break this in two so that this goes over here and then we'll just move it over here. So we'll sort of keep the clustered columns together, right? Alright, so how do we add this shadow? I know it's hard to see, but so we'll put it in preview mode. Okay? What we want to do is take column 4, which is here, and as you can see it's already blurred, but what we're going to do is we're going to actually this is okay, this is interesting. I see, these are reversed. So my infrastructure is already set up, they're just mapped wrong. So that's supposed to be there, and this is supposed to be here. So column 4 is being blurred, and then it's being multiplied by column 2. But when you multiply it, the opacity is only, it's about 20%, so 0.118. And I have this thing called clipping mask turned on. When clipping mask is turned on, it clamps the shadow to his body. So the net result of that little situation right there is that you get this shadow on him. Now what's going to happen is when we get down to here, we've got the same problem again. Okay? And the reason is we've got column 7 being blurred, and then it also needs to be multiplied. Control C, grab the pipe, Control V, and this needs to be multiplied by column 5. Usually we don't have this much work to do in sort of setting up a shot for rendering, but yeah, in this case we've got a little extra work to do. It's probably be easier to work with if we spread this out a bit so you can sort of see what the actual flow is. And of course, if you wanted to, you could grab all these nodes and create a group. You could collapse them into a group, but I mean, this isn't really that complicated, so there's no reason to do that. Okay, so that problem is solved. The one thing that is a little winky though, clearly, is the shadow on his nose. Oh, okay, I see what happened. Okay, so let's look at this drawing. And I'm going to say this is drawing number 1. I'm going to take a chance because I'm basically going to fly blind here. Meaning I'm going to take the C key and I'm going to zip in here. I'm just going to take a chance that kind of that I can ballpark this and that I'll be pretty close. So I'm going to delete that node. That's probably going to get me pretty close, actually. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. And now all I got to do is just do a little editing. So really the only thing I use vectors for in Tahoma. Now this is also risky behavior because this vector level is used in the other shot that this particular shot is based on. So I might be causing myself some problems here, but for a nose shadow, I'm going to take my chances. Okay. Okay, so this being out of alignment here doesn't matter because it's a one frame tween and boop, it's going by so fast you're not going to see it. So file, let's save all. Hey Chris K, haven't seen you in a while. Oh, Kill Sweep. Yeah, I watched the webisode and it looks really good. Thanks, man. I was intrigued by the Akari show. I was looking for more information. I like the idea of ripping the Japanese audio. Yeah, actually just today, it's kind of funny because I was looking at some of these AI-based voice things. I mean, for the most part, I don't really need to go down that road because, well, of course, I do a lot of the voices. In the webisode I released, I literally did all the voices. But I have good voice talent, people that I've worked with on lots of things in the past, so it's not like we don't have voices. But for Japanese, I mean, that gets a little more complicated. So for a $37 lifetime membership, it would actually be interesting. I can't remember what the program's called. It's like Speechopolis or something. But it would be interesting to take AI-generated speech and then bring it into Reaper and then use an animation envelope to modulate the pitch in order to actually dial in the inflection better. I've actually done that in movies. When I've been editing the audio, where I had a line of dialogue, and it's like the girl asked a question, like, I would just as an example, it'd be like if somebody said, "What are you doing?" But when they said it, they said, "What are you doing?" And you wanted it to pitch up more. Well, you can create an envelope that actually pushes the pitch up, so it's where, what are you doing, like that, and you can actually get pretty creative with people's voices. So the progress is going on. Yeah, I'm just doing what I'm doing, man. We're taking this shot that was done a couple days ago, and this shot was done, I think, yesterday, which I'm really happy with how that turned out. Did this shot this morning, and now we're taking this shot and actually fixing it up. We're porting it, actually, is what we're doing. We're porting it from a slightly rough version from Krita to a little bit tighter version here in Tahoma. So I'm pretty much software agnostic. I mean, because as you guys know, I use Krita and Tahoma both a lot. But for the most part, in the last few months, I pretty much landed on Tahoma, which is kind of ironic because Kill Sweep 45, when I was doing the Akari thing, that was almost all being done with OpenTunes, not even Tahoma. That was back in the days when it was all OpenTune. So, fun stuff. I love that little polite smile. Okay, so now this all goes on way, way, way too long. So the polite smile, boop, boop, boom. There it is. So about frame 69 or so. So I'm going to hit Alt up arrow. This is not a default hotkey in Tahoma, but it is in OpenTunes. Why they changed it in Tahoma, I have no idea. Okay, so I'm going to go boom, boom, take it to there. Now it looks like it would probably be wise to take out one more frame just so we don't have to mess with the bowls. So there we go. That'll work. Okay, and I am going to probably render this, and if everything's looking good, I may go ahead and wrap up for tonight, because I wasn't planning to do a super long live stream, and I kind of didn't think this shot would go this quickly, honestly. But okay, so we've got, well, I guess what we need to do here is let's just get rid of all this other garbage, because otherwise this is all going to render. And we don't want that. So we're going to render up to frame 78. 78, you stinker. Cool. So let's do it. Control-Shift-R. Boom. And then we'll jump over to Vegas and just see how it cut into the show. So there's shot 90. There's the shot we just did earlier. Well, there's the shot we did earlier today. 95. And then this is the shot we just did. So Luka's got a line of dialogue. You like monkeys, he says. Huh? Sure. Okay. So now the problem is we've kind of built some acting into this shot. And frankly, It ain't long enough. So let me see what we have here. Okay, it looks like we do have the whole sequence, so that's good. And it does look like that did not render correctly. Oh, I see. That's a holdover from before, so hold on. Okay, yeah, you can see the issue. So we'll just take that, cut that in, and then we need to re-render to fix the shadow problem. Wonder why. Let me just look at this. That's correct. Oh, I know why. I know what went wrong. Sorry. My bad. I've got to take this. Let's go over here. This right here. Control C. This needs to be inserted here. Of course it does, you silly goose. You knew that. So there we go. All right. This will play full screen now. So she says, how can I help? She's like, wow. Oh, you like monkeys? Yeah, sure. Ah, why is it still doing that? Okay, that's annoying. That's super annoying. So let's go back to Tahoma and see what the heck's going on here. Why would that be... Why would that map through correctly, but this wouldn't? It's in the same column. Well, life is full of mysteries, isn't it? There it is. It's blurred. It's multiplied. That's strange, I gotta tell you. That's actually kind of weird. That's a weird one. I wonder... And it doesn't have anything to do with the plastic tool, because as you can see, here we've got column 4 multiplied by column 2. Multiplied and blurred. So why the heck would it, picking up down here, cause the multiply effect to not work? I'm going to call that a bug, folks. I'm going to call that a bug. When you have a bug in Tahoma, here's what you do. You save your work and you close Tahoma and reopen it. And probably what's going to happen is when I reopen it, it'll just magically fix itself. So, yeah, generated voices are only going to get better. I mean, clearly they are. It's a drag for those of us who do voiceover. But the fact is, if the AI catches up, it is what it is. You got to just deal with it. So. Generated could sound unnatural, but it could work really well if you can manipulate it for each situation. Yep, you definitely could. I mean, there's limits. There's limits for sure. Let's see. It's still doing it. Yeah, that is really strange. What I'm seeing here, I've kind of never seen before. And I may be missing something obvious, but that is extremely odd. So you guys can see what's going on. This shadow is being clamped to this level. And since it's in the same... Wait a minute. Okay, that's interesting. That shouldn't matter either. That just turns it off in the fast preview. Yeah, that's a poser right there. I've never seen that happen. So unfortunately I don't have a fix at the moment. Isn't that strange? Now, ironically, let me see something. This is kind of shouldn't make any difference at all. But down here, we don't even need the plastic tool in there. Let's see what happens if we just move the plastic tool out of the way. Again, it shouldn't make any difference, because we're not doing any animation with the plastic tool there. Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, I don't want to waste everybody's time with that forever. So that's an extremely bizarre problem. And since opening and closing Tahoma didn't do the trick, thing is I can't fix it in the schematic because it's already fixed. I've already got column 2 being multiplied by column 4. So it's not a column-based problem. Very weird. Anybody got ideas? Feel free to chime in. But I think we have bumped into a really strange clunker. A strange clunker. Column 4 is the shadow. It's being blurred if we turn it off. Okay, that's interesting. Am I making a mistake here? Is this... I see the problem. Ha ha ha. This is the problem, guys. Why didn't somebody point this out to me? You silly gooses. Okay, so here's the problem. It's this. The shadow from column 7 is extended all the way down and it's overlapping it. Ta-da! There's the problem. Well, there's always a reasonable explanation. So I just completely missed that one. And that just goes to show how things do get complicated when you have to break a column up into multiple columns in order to add separate plastic tool skeletons. This is a good example of where the time you save by animating with the plastic tool might actually wind up costing you time when you have to start dealing with, sort of the mechanics of managing your scene. So there you go. Dumb one is the F transparency value all the way down the count. Yeah, so I fixed it, Maria. Yep, I just had both shadows overlapping. So this shadow here was extended all the way down here, which meant this was being composited properly, and then this one was just being laid over top of it. Okay, problem fixed. So Luka's like, you like monkeys? Sure. I like it. Okay, so I would say that going forward, I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. It's been an hour. It's been a good hour. We got that shot done. That's very cool. Going forward, this shot definitely needs some work. I mean, the background's pretty iffy. The animation, this whole sequence right here is lame. And the crazy thing about it is, I'll bet you I can fix all of this tomorrow. I don't even think it's going to take very long, but it's just too rough and sloppy. This shot looks good. This shot I'm probably going to take I'm going to probably do the same thing I just did. I'm going to take this old Krita version of it and redo it in Tahoma. And then once we get into Carliana, which is Tianara's mother, once we get into this woman, there's definitely going to be some shots through this sequence that are going to need a little tweaking. That's the bad news. The good news is this is the end of the webisode, so we are actually a solid 1/3 of the way through the fixes that were required for the second webisode. So if I can keep rocking and get the rest of this, well, you guys are looking at the wrong thing, really. If I can get the rest of this sequence from here to here tightened up in the next 2 weeks, then I can give a week to doing the voices and score on this section, and I'll actually be able to get another webisode out at the beginning of February, which would be amazing. It'd be pretty fast. So, but what a cool thing to be able to crank out a 4 or 5 minute webisode every month. That would be super cool. And that puts you at a full 24-minute episode about every 5 to 6 months, right? That's how the math works. So anyway, that's it. I am going to go ahead and bail. I'm sure I'll be back on tomorrow. No promises, but it's likely. And so before we go, I think we should give one more listen. And anybody who's here who hasn't subscribed, please subscribe. It is definitely helpful. And I am going to give you guys the distinct pleasure of hearing the Animation Truman Show jingle one more time before I sign off for tonight. And here it is.
If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
I love that. If you've got no life and nowhere to go. Okay, so that's it, guys. I am signing off, and as you guys know, there will